A little store in Lebanon County. It happens to be Wertz Candies, but some have the bigger companies like Dove or Wilbur Buds or Hershey's. We have a lot of Pennsylvania chocolate. Could be warehousing, there's the manufacture of it, and also the retail. And I thought, wow, what a great representation of businesses in Pennsylvania. So to that end, my sister Kathy and I came up with the slogan, Pennsylvania, a state of chocolate. Now, I'm in a state of chocolate most of the time, and at this point I'd like to do a little survey. Who here has a favorite, one or the other? First of all, whose favorite is milk chocolate? Raise your hand. I see some hands going up. And whose favorite is dark chocolate? Oh my gosh, you guys are with me. I love dark chocolate. So Brandon Newman, I'm sorry, but if you're going to get anywhere near my boat, you've got to switch to dark chocolate or at least offer an option here. But at any rate, it's just, again, a way to show that in Pennsylvania, agriculture is number one. I'm from a rural community in Lebanon County, south central Pennsylvania, and let's face it, milk in milk chocolate or anything we eat is really agricultural in nature. So there's the business end, there's the agricultural end. We have to support our farmers, we have to support our small businesses. That's the backbone of our economy. Now, what is my campaign about? It's about our infrastructure, our roads and bridges, our water and sewer, our schools, and yes, energy. All of these together provide good paying jobs, sustainable jobs, to make Pennsylvania stronger, productive, and we will be, again, a leader among states if we focus on this issue of good family-sustaining jobs. Myself, I'm a 4-term county commissioner from Lebanon, Pennsylvania in my 15th year. I was elected statewide by my colleagues to serve as the president of the association. Olivia preceded me in that position by 1 or 2 terms, but still, I remember looking at Olivia and saying, wow, that is something I think I can make a difference and do. So I completed my term as president and then served a year as chairman of the board. During that time, it was my duty to share the stage with Tom Corbett, and I soon learned that I disagreed with him on a whole lot of issues. One of those, and only one of many, was the fact that he cut our mental health services by 10% and only had 10 counties that were allowed to then use block grants to try and make up an efficiency for the 10% cut. And when you have administration, you might be able to save 2%, but not 10. And that meant 57 counties didn't even have the opportunity to try and save that. So who suffered? It was our people who needed our services most. The list goes on. In our prisons, and every county has the responsibility to provide for prisons, whether it's in their own community or by subcontracting with another county who might take in their people. But in our prisons, one of the things I've learned is that 70 to 80% have either mental health or drug and alcohol problems. So wouldn't it make more sense, because jails are so expensive to build, wouldn't it make a whole lot more sense to have veterans courts, mental health courts, drug and alcohol courts, put people in the proper treatment, and that's partially reimbursable. Those prisons are 100% funded from your real estate tax dollars. It's ridiculous. And then in the governor's budget this time, what did I see? But they're closing or taking more people out of the statewide mental health system at the state hospitals, and instead they're hiring counselors in the prison. And I'm like, why are we putting them in prison? They don't belong in prison. It doesn't make sense to me. This is just one issue. The bottom line is, I'm the boots on the ground of local government. I've been in the trenches. And you know what? For 40 years I've served as a committee person in Lebanon County. In 83 and 84 I was the chairman of that committee. Right now I'm vice chair. That means I do the same thing that you're asked to do. I've carried petitions for candidates all these years. I've worked at the polls. I've worked booths. I do what needs to be done. I'm an average person. I'm an average Joe, if you will. Joe Ellen, you get it. The bottom line is, I know what it's going to take to be governor. I'm a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker. I'm 62 years old. I don't play games. I'm in this to win it, but only with your help. And I know I can defeat Corbett. You will get someone, when you choose me as your governor, who is true to the people. By the way, my campaign slogan has always been, people above politics. Over the course of my 15 years in county government, if you take an average of 3 years on a union contract, 3 into 15 is 5, and we have 7 unions, times 7 would be somewhere between 30 and 35 contracts that I've helped to fairly negotiate for workers in Lebanon County. Now that means we didn't have any strikes, and it's not always been easy, but we've made the decisions. I've listened to some of the other candidates say, well, I was the first in my family to go to college. That's me. I paid my own way. I was an adult learner. And I've heard them say, and with all admiration, I've saved a business, with my colleague, Mr. Conwell. Likewise, I owned and operated an auto body shop for 20 years and operated Litz Company commercial rentals alongside until in 2011, major fire, the place burned down. But in so doing, my boss, when I first started there, Kermit, had a massive heart attack and quadruple bypass surgery. And I ran the place while he was gone. I did my job and his job, never got 1 extra cent. But again, it was the dedication, the loyalty to the people of that company. And when he came back, he was there for a week, and there was a difficult customer who said, well, you know, this and that, and Kermit looked at me and said, you know what, I'm not going to die doing this job, I need to retire. So all the men, and I worked with men in an auto body shop, came to me and said, Joellen, you did such a great job. While Kermit was off, won't you buy the place and keep it going so we have jobs? That's exactly what I did. We too shared the profits with our employees. But at that point in time, we sat down and talked as a group. And we decided it would be more fair just to pay everybody an hourly wage up front. And we did that, and that's how we operated from then on out. I'm not saying there's a right way or a wrong way, but it's a matter of talking with the people and negotiating what is best, and that's what we did at that time. So I guess maybe in a smaller scale, I have had all these experiences, and on top of that, you've heard about my business experience, my local government experience. I also have conservation experience. I have been the president of the Swatara Watershed Association for over 25 years. We have canoed and cleaned up the Swatara Creek. So clean water, ladies and gentlemen, is my passion. And the reason I tell you this is because of all of the problems that we have with the fracking. You know what? I ran an auto body shop. I handled hazardous waste. And it troubled me until I realized that, well, you know what? We need somebody who cares about how this is processed in a position like that to make sure that we try and do the right thing. So, to that end, I could go into a long story on that alone, but to that end, wouldn't it then be logical that if we've been fracking in this state for 100 years, that there are going to be a couple of companies who do it right and a couple of companies who don't do it right? Why don't we be really tough and say, if you have repeat infractions, we're going to take your license and send you packing. You're not going to be able to do business in Pennsylvania. That's where I'm coming from. Because I think that if we do things like test the wells with dye and water prior to letting them frack, then we will be able to know. People will be able to check their water and see if it comes out red or blue, whatever color we choose, or green, to test it. We can test if those wells are sealed before we ever start. They do it with landfill liners to make sure that they're not leaking. And so we can do the same thing, in my humble opinion, and I'm not the chemist or the scientist, but I truly believe we can test those wells prior to having the fracking going on, and then we can do it right. Those are some of the ideas I have, and it will take a team to implement those. I also believe that we should have, on the topics that I mentioned, the roads and bridges, the water and sewer, the schools and energy, we should have a summit with those 4 tracks, and I should sit down, get House and Senate leadership involved, and bring in experts, and we can bring in the people, the unions, teachers, everyone. By the way, my husband just retired in June as a teacher. So to the teachers in the room, I do understand your situation with pensions and all. And I've been working on pensions at my county as well. But I could go on all day. There are just so many topics, but I'll close with this. For the last several weeks, emergency management, the safety of our people, is paramount. For the last couple of weeks, I have spent countless hours in our emergency management center alongside of the good people who dispatch fire, police, ambulance, and hazardous materials response. And also our team, who, if we had to declare an emergency, would transport people to the hospitals, etc., to the prison, and some of the places that we have to operate 24/7, we cannot shut down. County government has mandates that we have to carry out, and we have to keep things rolling. So I've spent countless hours with them in that emergency management center, and recently we negotiated 12-hour shifts for them because that is what the people told me they wanted, and it took a new board of colleagues to be able to convince them that this would be good. It's working wonderfully. It's what they wanted. And at the end of the 12-hour shift, I get to see them switch at 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 at night. They're as precious when they started. They're as professional, polite, and courteous. It's working. And they're very happy, and they get to spend more time with their families. But one of the things, I had no idea how it would impact, but just the other day, it was the end of a shift, 12-hour shift coming up. It was 5 o'clock in the evening, and I looked around and I said, is everybody hungry? And I saw some heads nodding, so I started calling our local delis and things to find out who was open. Well, I found out A&M Pizza was open, and I said, do you have any lasagna, a big tray of lasagna? They said, no, but that would take a day before to order, but we can make you ziti in an hour. I said, that sounds good. So I got enough ziti to feed 20 people, who is about what we had in the center, and I had to go out and shovel my car out of the snow. The plow had gone by, but still it was pushed up against the car. Shoveled the snow away from my car, hopped in, and just took my time. It was only about 5 blocks, but I got to this little restaurant, got this huge, heavy container of ziti and their fresh-made bread, put it in the car, went back, opened it up, and served it to all the people there. And I just put a little tweet, going to feed, the 911 telecommunicators and EMA staff. Do you know that I have all but 100 likes on that? Now that may not seem like a big deal to you, but for a little county like Lebanon, that's a real success. The employees were so appreciative to be recognized, to be thought of, and then all the community was joining in and thanking them. That was the best part. They were thanking them for doing the job they do and for dispatching, because people still have heart attacks, even in the middle of a snowstorm, and they need 911 service. And then communicating on Facebook and through emails to tell people, please stay off the roads. We need to get our emergency crews through. And explaining to people why on an emergency route you have to move your car. And there were many who were towed away, and letting them know, well, you're one of 52 that were towed today. Sorry about that, but they couldn't understand, well, if you're not clearing curb to curb, why do we have to move our car? Well, because the snowplow, if your car is covered with snow, they can't see it. That's when accidents happen. I ran an auto body shop, and do you know how many plows hit cars? It happens quite frequently. Again, as I said, I see them getting the axe and the hook, but I could go on and on. The bottom line is communication, transparency, integrity. I will serve you with honesty as your governor. Thank you for your time. I know I don't have all the fancy words, but my heart is in this. I'm in it to win it. Thank you. I forgot to say, this goes to the chairman, Chaz. He's been and he can decide if he wants to keep it, auction it, and raise a little money, or give it away. It's up to him. I put it in his hands. Thank you.
It's up to bid. Thank you.